Good morning. It is 10:02 a.m. on Friday, June 13th, 2025. Call this meeting of the Wichita County Commissioners Court to order. First item this morning is receive presentation from Steve Owens, TAC Risk Management Services on auto claims and workers' compensation. Mr. Owens, come on down. I called Steve about 3-4 weeks ago, and had heard they had some initial numbers that I thought would be interesting for the court to see on how we stack up over the last couple of years on workers' comp and auto claims, and sure thought it'd be good for the court to hear. So,
thank you.
Turn it over to you, sir.
Thank y'all for having us here today. I'm also here with David, Rita, and Nick. This is the rest of the service team. So, if there are any questions or concerns as we go through, you can address me or address them. They're the experts. But as the judge said, we had a discussion a few weeks ago, and we have the ability to run reports to show you the true cost of where the money's going every year out of your claims. And we do a claims review with Tanya and with Kenneth every year, and those two do a great job. We come in and we give them this huge claim stack, right, and we go through it with them. But they do a great job. But we wanted to come in here today and break the numbers down a little bit better with some tools that they don't have, that we have on our systems, just to kind of show you, hey, this is where the money's going from the county, right? Like, this is how much we're spending on deductibles and whatnot, so that you guys can make informed decisions on how you proceed with your training and address and everything and whatnot. So first thing I want to say before we get into it, you have a packet in front of you, and I'm again not here today to point fingers at anybody. This is just telling you the story of the numbers as they show, so that you guys get a true picture of the cost of the coverage and the risks. So if y'all want to flip to your first page right here, there's a lot of numbers on here. Basically what this is if you look at the very top, the top column, that is your 5-year totals from the inception date that Wichita came to the pool, right? So that's the 5-year totals on the first 3 lines right there. And the total paid is what the pool has paid out. The deductible on the right-hand side, that is what you guys' portion of it, right? So every time you have an incident with an auto, there's that $5,000 deductible. So this just really shows, hey, and this is only since 2022. So since the inception, that's all the data I have. But that's the way that I broke this down. Basically, you guys are a large county. You have a large sheriff's department, a large road and bridge, a large jail. So you have a lot of exposures. So just keep that in mind. Your numbers are not too far out of line with other size counties, right? So one of the things, basically, to break it down, your total paid, or the total paid by the pool for your auto liability and physical damage together since 22, $528,508. Your deductible portion of that total is $115,753. Now, keep in mind, if you guys have a policy where if you have a vehicle that gets into an accident and it's below a certain threshold, if you decide you're not going to file that claim, a lot of people do that, depending on the number of damage. I don't have that data. So you would have to take this and then add in, let's say below $5,000, you don't file a claim. I don't have access to that data, right? So you guys would have to add that in on your own afterwards. Just a little caveat there. The way that breaks down, auto physical damage is higher than auto liability, so that's whenever you have damages to the vehicles of your fleet that Wichita owns. So basically, since 10 of 22, you've had a $351,562 right there that the pool's paid out, and that is where most of your skin in the game is coming from. If you look, there's been $85,000 in deductibles, so $5,000 per incident. Basically, we don't ask them for that deductible, obviously, right? Like if it's say $100,000 Tahoe, it gets totaled, the check comes in for $95,000, your deductible, you guys are responsible for that other $5,000. But it still has to be accounted for, right? Even though you don't physically give us a check and then we give you a check back, you still have to add that into your numbers. Auto liability, quite a bit lower. We've paid out $176,946, and you've had $30,753 in deductibles. So basically, you're out of pocket for the last approximately 3.5 to 4 years on the auto side is again $115,753. If you look down to the second column, that's your liability broke down. And this is actually broken down by department. So there's 3 departments. There's the sheriff's department, the district attorney, and then there's other. And so that other is whenever it comes in, it just depends on how the adjuster codes it or whatever. It could be road and bridge. It could be a lot of different things, right? But it's a smaller portion, so we just left the other down there to encompass everything else for the sake of simplicity of the numbers. So basically, the sheriff's department portion of that 176 has been 106,000, and again, that the pool has paid out. Again, that's not too far out of the ordinary because you have a large fleet, right? And they probably have one of the more dangerous jobs. So obviously, there's going to be some risk there. So we expect that. That's in line with the pool. The deductible portion from the sheriff's department is on the liability side is $22,071. Same time frame. You had one incident from the district attorney on the auto liability. I noticed it was the same claim, about 5 or 6, so that looked like that was one incident. That's where the majority of the rest of the money paid from the pool on your liability is from. That was $63,682. And again, I believe that was the same incident because it was multiple vehicles on the same day. And that resulted in $3,682 in deductible. We go down to the physical damage, which again is your vehicles. $351,000 paid by the pool, $351,562. Of that, $197,828 is from the sheriff's department. Again, probably your largest fleet. Other is $78,006, and then you go down. We have precinct 1, $19,429. Precinct 5, $19,236. 3, $15,810, and then 2, $12,938. So that's a breakdown of where the vehicle damages that we paid for your vehicles based by department. And I just broke it all down there for easy reading. Again, if you look at the right column, it shows the deductible applied for each of those departments over the past 4 years. So if you move to the next page, it's basically just this is just broken down by year. It shows your deductible incurred by year. All I put this in here for is I want to point out that on your auto physical damage, you had a big year in 23, 24, $40,000, but since then, those deductibles have been trending down. What does that mean? That means you've had less incidents. So that's a good thing, right? Like whatever you're doing to address, the high losses in 23, continue these programs because it's working, right? It's saving you money. You're having less incidences than you were 2 years ago. It went from 40 to 25 to 15. So we're heading in the right direction on that. On the auto liability, same thing. This year so far, we've had $3,683 in deductibles. That's well behind the pace that we normally have. We're halfway through the year, so if that holds, we'll be below $8,000 in deductibles, right? So those are the good news on the auto side. Y'all are trending down on both of those. So continue with the programs that you're using. The next page is just another way to, same thing, another way to look at it. It's this is actually the total cost to the county. So on this is the total cost out of your budget, right? We have broken down again by auto liability and by physical damage. So last year, your contribution for auto liability was $45,267. You add in the deductibles, you've had to pay $3,683. So your true total cost is more than that contribution, right? It's $48,950. Same system on the auto physical damage. The contribution was $43,542, and you've had $15,000 in deductibles. So that's a pretty big chunk, right? And probably, $5,000 deductible per incident. And
Steve, sorry to interrupt.
no, that's fine. I
should know this off the top of my head, but I can't remember it this morning. What's our annual premium for liability and physical damage?
So that's where the contribution, that's the premium. We call it the contribution in 25.
Okay, that is.
Yeah, in 25 for liability, it was $45,267, and for physical, it was $43,542.
Okay.
So we use contribution for pool language, premium insurance language, so those are interchangeable. But that page right there just gives you a total cost. Hey, our contribution plus our skin in the game. This is actually what it's costing us. So for in the future for budgeting purposes, if you have a baseline of hey, we typically experience this many incidents per year, now we can budget. We know some stuff's gonna happen, so we can budget some deductible to the side, so that we're not surprised right when it happens, just for better budgeting and stuff like that. And you can kind of tell, which departments are incurring the most cost. Does anybody else have anything before I go on? I know I kind of start going fast sometimes. Okay, so this next page, and again, this is all auto liability. It's got a little pie chart right there. This is a little bit different. This is since inception, which was in October 2022. Basically what this does is it just breaks down the number of claims and again, the total paid by department. So this page, you can look and say, okay, this is where most of the claims are happening. This is where we need to address with training policy or whatever you decide, right? So that's a valuable page right there. And again, it's just the top 10 by department. So that first one is auto liability. And then the second page is very similar. It's just auto physical damage.
So on your pie chart, you're showing all other, just to have one claim, but over here on the first page, you're showing,
The next page will break it down.
okay.
Right, and that
But it's
makes,
only one claim.
um,
How do we only have one claim when we show claims on 1, 2, 5?
so you're
3 to
looking
5.
at you're looking at auto liability up here on the top 10 causes of loss. So that's where you damage a non-member's vehicle, right?
Okay.
On the next page, if we look at auto physical damage,
Okay,
it
gotcha.
breaks it down by, because the
Gotcha.
auto physical
Okay.
damage is
All right.
your vehicles,
Got it.
right? So so those should match.
I flip the page, like you said.
Right, yeah. So, you guys can look at those numbers again, just a very easy to read, quick reference, hey, this is where we're at. That page doesn't show the deductibles, that's just showing
Okay.
the severity and the frequency from each, department. Same thing on the auto physical damage on the next page, that is your vehicles again, and it's the exact same way, number of claims, total paid by department. So you can reference these at any time. We can send you updated of this, you know, whenever you want it. If you want to follow up in a few months or whatever, you just email or call one of us, we can send you this. It's like that, it's easy.
I think we need Commissioner Watson, precinct 4, to do a president class.
Well, let's look at that. It's on precinct 5.
Precinct 5 was actually all
Tell us
four.
about that.
I knew I would get something.
You bet.
Yeah.
Okay, so I beat up the auto quite a bit. The next page, last thing on the auto is, this is just a pool, vert, region, and member comparison, okay? So this is your AL is in the first column, your auto liability, your physical damage is the second column. And basically that number, that's your loss ratio, right? So your ratio of what you pay to the pool and then what we pay back to you on those lines, right? So for auto liability, the pool stands about 78. It's a pretty high number. The region, we're doing a little better at 64, and you guys, over the last 4 years, basically since inception, are at 155 on the liability. A lot of that was due, again, to that one large claim, right? That one large claim can throw the numbers out for years. On the physical damage side, that's where I really wanted to focus. So the pool, we see a lot of physical damage. It happens. You have hail, you have everything that can go into it, wrecks. Pool, we're at about 117. The region is at 136, and you guys are at 282 over the last 4 years.
I would imagine that the leadership of the pool, I'm guessing, doesn't like a plus 100% plus loss ratio over that amount of time.
So to answer that, it's closer to about 60. That's the prime number where if you're in insurance world and anything over 60 is like, hey, this is right. It's a risky number. So, but we understand. So that's kind of the way risk pooling works, right? You're a large county. You have more assets. We're in a hail-prone area, as opposed to smaller counties in, say, Southwest or Southeast Texas. They don't have as many losses on this line, but they have losses in other lines, right?
Yeah, I think what I'm getting at is, and I understand members are gonna vary widely on their loss factor, or their loss ratio. For the pool as a whole to be running that high on physical damage, I'm asking this question because I would imagine that means pool members are gonna see significant increases in premiums coming forward.
Well, a lot of that has already been, I believe, has already been baked in. You've seen the storms, right? A lot of that could be due to hail damage. You have to pull all the claims to see. This is not all just wrecks, right? This could be hail damage. It could be a lot of things. We've had a lot of a lot of weather events in the last 4 years. So that's a lot of the reason why.
Yeah, but the dollars don't care from y'all's side.
Right, correct. But it's not always just damage of wrecks. And the one good thing is you guys have the $5,000 deductible on each line, right? You guys came to us with that from before I got here, as I understand. You know, that's just you taking on a little more risk and in exchange having a better a different contribution rate, right? Keeping that a little bit lower. So, but you're right, pool wide. I mean, we've just seen, like I said, there's been a lot of storms the last couple of years, so a lot of that could be that. And we have a lot of large counties with large fleets. So,
Well, I think I'm not asking my question well. Is the pool leadership board, is it a board?
yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so if I'm on the pool board and I look at this number, I'm going, this is unsustainable as a business model. Whether it's caused by hail or wrecks or whatever it is, I don't particularly care. And if I'm in the board position, I'm going, this is not sustainable. We've got to increase our premiums to get the loss factor, our loss ratio down below 100, closer to that 60 number. And so if I'm just looking at this from budget planning perspective from the member side, I would expect to see significant premium increases. But that's not the case, and so I don't understand why.
So I wouldn't use the word significant. This is kind of where insurance and risk pooling different a little bit, right? First of all, we're made, like you said, the board is members. We're not a for-profit company, so we have that leeway, right? Like we're not gonna just say, well, these losses are unsustainable. Let's drop you. Let's jack the rates to the moon. It's a cost-sharing mechanism. So that's why one of the reasons why you're not seeing it. And then the loss ratios of the other lines come into effect too, because the pool is the pool. It's not the pool for auto, the pool for property, the pool for workers' comp.
Okay.
So we'll get to that in workers' comp. You guys have excellent loss ratios, right? So you can use that to kind of offset a little bit as to where an insurance company is just going to say, no, these rates are huge. Yeah, we're going to compare it to your personal insurance, right? They're going to jack it to the moon.
So the pool's looking at all forms of coverage that it provides as a entire.
Right, so
cost
the
rather than-
pool has our reserves and our surplus that have to stay at a certain amount, and that's a lot based of where some of these numbers come from. We have that reserve and surplus to pay claims,
Okay.
and it's just the market in general. Another thing that we use is what risk control factors are you guys putting in, right? I said a lot of your numbers have gone down. When I can tell you from sitting in the meetings, when we go to underwriting for pricing at the beginning of the year, they look at, have they done the training, which you guys do a great job of, right, by the way. Are you doing the training? Are you addressing the recommendations, or do you just have a kind of a laissez-faire spirit about it where you're, well, it's gonna happen, and we're just gonna pay the premium and move on. So a lot of that goes in. It's not just the numbers, right, to how they set the premiums, or the contributions, excuse me.
Also, not a lot of French spoken in this courtroom.
It's contribution.
I love it.
So again, there's the one thing that is not showing on here, and it's because it was a large undertaking that I couldn't get done because we were having some problems with our system. Take this with a grain of salt, because this is compared against the whole pool. A way that you guys can move forward is you can take this and you compare it to similar sized counties, right? Because then you have similar sized fleets, they have similar demographics, everything. Because this is comparing you to everybody, and that's not really fair to say, hey, well, you guys against a county that has a population of 2,000, right? You're obviously gonna have more losses. So as you move forward, you can look at a larger, smaller, similar sized counties though, and you can get a good understanding of, hey, maybe high, but it's not, maybe not be out of the realm.
Steve,
Right, of what similar sized counties are facing.
can I ask, where would we find the numbers though for other counties? Because I know we get them from you.
Right.
But how would we just call and say, hey, run me some numbers for?
Give me some, this would be a time where I need quite a bit of a heads up, because again, I have to go in and actually research similar sized counties. Also, as just a disclaimer, if I came in and talked about that or I sent it to you, I would label them member A, B, C, D. I would
Yeah.
not be putting, just like I would not take this to another county and show y'all's business to them. But we can use those numbers and say, hey, these are some, and it takes some time to do that. That's not a report I can press a button and run. I've got to, and I'll do it. I'm not making an excuse, but it does take a little bit of time.
It's a manual process.
Yeah, it's a manual process.
Okay.
It'd be
All right.
interesting to see what our peer counties.
And one more thing on that, and another reason why it takes a while, because I did attempt that this time, but I tried to stay in our region. A lot of that depends on where we have coverages at. If we don't have coverage on a certain line, I can't compare you because I don't have the data.
Yeah.
So you have to really go around the whole state.
I imagine we don't have a lot of peer counties in our region.
We got, I would say probably 3.
Okay.
Yeah. So is there any more questions about auto? I know we hammered to death. That's a lot of information. I don't want y'all to feel like I ran through it too fast or
No.
anything. Okay, a little bit of a lighter tone here, workers' compensation. So this is a much shorter part as well. Again, like I said at the beginning, typically what we see, and especially in the larger counties, is counties with a jail. Most of the, a lot of the losses tend to come from there because it's more, it's just more risk, right? So if you have a large sheriff's department, large jail, typically that's what we see out of counties as opposed to other departments. So just keep that in mind here. This is not out of the ordinary. This is 2021 to 25 because we've had you guys workers' comp since the 70s, so I ran back 4 years on this. Basically, we've paid out $408,435. There is no deductible on workers' comp by law, so you're not seeing any immediate cost out of that. There are costs down the line, you know, with hiring, replacing people, stuff like that, that are unseen that I don't have accounted for in here, but you don't have a deductible cost. Basically, you can read through there and it just shows where your losses are coming from by department.
And that's over that's that 3.5 year window?
Yeah,
Since
well,
the
2021 to 25, yeah. So there's a lot of numbers there, but you know, bottom line is you can just see where the stuff is coming from, so that's where you know can address it at. The next page, similar to the auto page, again, y'all's loss ratio over the last 4 years, 32.19 for a large county. That's pretty outstanding. I consider that really good. So like we said, if you're using that magic 60% number, y'all are at half of that, right? And you can just look at the pool. If the pool was at 120, the region is 94, you guys are 32. So stark contrast, especially for a large county. You guys are doing great with your risk control efforts, even though you do have large departments. So that's just a kudos to you guys and to your risk managers and the work your employees are doing. You know, workers' comp wise, the only other thing that I'll say on that, besides the numbers, is when we give you the detailed loss run, which is not in here because it's 52 pages, it lists every single claim. So there's a lot of ways that I can cut up the workers' comp numbers. If you're looking for something that is not on that page, you can cut it up by the type of loss, what the injuries were, all kinds of stuff. So if you guys want to dig deeper into the workers' comp than just the raw numbers, just let me know and I can send you the reports. We give those to, you know, your risk managers, but again, they don't have the tools that we have to cut those up and really dig deep. They do, but it's all manual on one PDF. You spend 2 months looking through that thing, right, to separate everything out.
What is why do we have so many public works named areas?
So this goes by 2 things. There's the when an employee gets injured, there's a employee classification code depending on what that is, and then also when the adjuster comes out, what they put in the report. But I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's by the employee classification code. Correct. Yes. So you have whenever you fill out your workers' comp renewal at the beginning of the year or towards the middle of the year for the next year, and it asks for that number of employees, and then they put those in the workers' comp in the system. There's different codes for everybody. We've seen times when a claim would come through and it was actually would belong to, like say, one department, but then it was classified in the wrong area. So that a lot of the stuff with workers' comp is regulated by TDI, Texas Department of Insurance. That's our only line that is actually regulated by TDI because our standards on the other lines are higher. But a lot of that again just goes into how that employee was classified when that was injured.
Only public works we have is road and bridge, so.
Right, and that's another thing is it could be I would have to look at a claim specific each one and say, hey, you know, where was this employee? Is this employee, you know, each specific one, it's hard to generalize, but it's based on the class codes and what the adjuster put in there for, they may have just lumped up, you may have had an adjuster for 1 year that lumped all of them into road and bridge, all of road and bridge into public works, right? And then you may have another adjuster that, no, hey, precinct 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever.
I would bet it's housekeeping, Mark, because they listed out in public works for road and bridge and also maintenance, but there's no housekeeping. So I'm wondering if that's the,
I kind of figured public works maintenance would be maintenance and housekeeping, but
And
there's
together.
also public works separately.
Yeah.
It's
And
not a
that's
lot of
something-
money,
There's
but-
public works truck and transport and public works utilities.
Yeah, and the only way to look through that is, again, you guys have that, I believe I may have sent it to the judge, I know that they have it, the detailed loss run. You just have to look through because it has each employee's name, it has a one line of what the incident was. Only way to know is just to look through there and see where they classified each person.
Okay.
Bottom line is that, in the grand scheme of things though, they're all employees of the county, right? So I understand wanting to know where it's coming from so you can dig down, look through that detailed loss run, I can help with that, but that's not something I can just say for sure this is why.
Okay.
So, that's basically it on workers' comp. Again, you guys do great on that. You get the safety award every year, the excellence in safety award. We come do the training, so you guys are looking good on workers' comp. We see that consistently from Wichita County, so I didn't plan on spending a lot of time on it, just give you the numbers so that you can see where, just for your information.
It's all very helpful, good information for the court to get to hear.
Is there anything I missed, Judge, that you wanted to go over, that we missed from our conversation, or?
I don't think so.
Okay.
That department level look helps us see where we historically have had problems and might need to address, and, no, I don't think so. I think you covered it.
Okay.
Do you have any questions?
Other than that, it'd be nice to understand where the public works.
Sure, and I'll dig into that, and I'll work with Kenneth on that and kind of, because it shouldn't be, that actually won't take very long. There's not a whole lot of claims there by the numbers, so we should be able to figure that out pretty quickly,
Okay.
right, and get that in. All right,
Thanks, Steve.
thank you.
Awesome.
Anyone else presenting from the group, or are you the guy?
I brought them here in case you had any other questions I couldn't answer, because they're the smart ones, they're the experts in each discipline, for law enforcement, risk, and HR. So if you guys have any questions for them, or they, definitely they're here, take advantage of them.
One other quick question. How hard is it to pull up like the jail stats and see how many are trip fall kind of claims, how many are?
That's one click. It's gonna be very similar to the top 10 by department with the pie chart. We can pull a top 10 cause of loss.
Could we get that? I think that'd be helpful as
Sure,
well.
I can actually do that before we leave today.
Okay.
Now,
If there's training or a particular problem we need to address, we can address it that way.
sure.
I do have one question on the law enforcement consultant side, if I may. I'm curious that of the whole pool and the membership in the pool, we are a county where our sheriff's office does pursuits, and I know that that's going to mean a higher loss number, which is that's a policy decision. I'm curious, how of your membership, do you have any idea of what the breakdown is between how many members do pursuits versus don't?
Of course, I come out of South Texas before this, and every county pursued.
Okay.
I have yet to find a county that doesn't. A lot of municipalities have chosen not to, but you back yourself into a corner. And I don't want to get into tactics, law enforcement
Sure.
tactics, but having been a former sheriff, I can tell you back yourself in a corner. If you say you have a no pursuit policy, then you have a bank robbery.
Yeah.
You pretty much violating policy to catch an offender. So I would caution against that. But a couple of things I do want to address, excuse me, is one, the AL and APD from a law enforcement standpoint. I know numbers always seem high. That's true in every county, but you got to remember they have the majority of the fleet for the county. Very busy area. Also, one thing, Judge, you mentioned that kind of brought something up in my mind was comparing like size counties in the region. And that's true. We can find counties around the state, but say somebody in deep South Texas is not going to have the APD claims with hail that y'all have,
Yeah.
and wind and things like that. So you're not always going to be perfectly lined up. Unless we can find some in this region that deal with the same type of weather One other thing too, and I'll sit down, is on the workers' comp claims out of LE. A lot of times those are not classified. Again, it's to the adjuster and how they're coded in. They may not be exactly what happened. So I would encourage researching the particular incident. Also, what we see in LA, especially out of the jail, there's a lot of report only. So they didn't incur any cost, it's just, had an incident, I might have had an injury, I report in, it didn't cost the county anything. So, and that's true on exposures, a lot of exposure claims, or maybe a very minor injury that they just treat on site.
No, it'd just be interesting to kind of understand where some of these claims are coming from, and if there's something that we can do to help prevent those.
Just a cursory look that I've noticed out of the jail is, it's a lot of, slip, trips, and falls.
That's kind of what I was expecting.
And I think some of that is the construction, being a tiered facility.
It's not a tiered facility.
Don't y'all have some tanks where you have? Yeah.
Well, you got 2 steps to get up to the officer's location.
In the tanks.
In the tank. Well, and then steps up, second tier.
Several more pods.
Yeah. So you're going up and down stairwells, and even a single step, and this is probably more in Nick's field of expertise, but a lot of times
Okay.
they dismiss it because they're looking or focusing on an inmate or something else.
Sure.
But again,
No.
without looking at the individual claims, it's hard to really
Okay.
break that down.
Well, and I mean, and I look at those overall numbers, and for the type of job that has to be done, I mean, it seems like doing a pretty good job on that.
Yeah.
I
Front
concur.
end of the
Yeah,
jail,
absolutely.
yes,
Yeah.
so.
No.
Especially with the number of exposures you have, as far as the number of vehicles, the number of officers. I think it's very in line, very good, in my opinion.
Appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you.
Any other questions on the presentation? All right. Steve, rest of the team, thank y'all for making the trip to do. You're welcome to stick around and listen to this riveting content, but.
I'm gonna get you the rest of those reports real quick.
Okay.
I would just encourage you, if any more questions do come up, I know that, we all didn't speak, but, I mean, Rita has a lot of knowledge, obviously Nick has a lot of knowledge, so if y'all do have any other questions, just like always, feel free to reach out. We're a phone call away, and, if anything else comes up, we'll address it as well.
Okay. All right.
Thank you
Thank
very
y'all.
much.
Thanks.
Appreciate you not canceling us today.
Item number 2 is review and discuss jail maintenance projects and work orders. It looks like Chief McFerrin drew the short straw.
Yeah. Looks like cameras project has been updated, looking at about $35,000 total for that project. Had some problems with the roof. I think Commissioner Beecham's been involved in that. And our air conditioning, we've had a couple of problems with that, but Dryden is working through them. He reached out to, it doesn't say who, but anyways, he's got somebody working with him. One of the coils was freezing over, and we've got another one that, some batteries. Remediation is done. I don't remember if that had been covered before or not, so we're not gonna be doing that anymore. But other than that, it's working, going right along.
Okay. Any questions for the chief? Okay. Item number 3 is receive status report on salaries and overtime.
Probably, you'll see it on next week's, but we have jail school going on, so you're gonna see some overtime for that. We have 8 openings currently, and we have 6 applications currently being worked, with 2 more expected to be turned in.
Even after the last round of folks leaving, it's down to 8?
Yes, sir. Yep. So hopefully with those 2 people turning in their applications and no background issues, I'm not gonna say it, but
Yeah.
you know what I'm getting at.
All right, and it looks like the email is from Wilmer yesterday at 8:29 a.m. Should have it.
2,000.
Bargain priced. Bargain priced.
Hey, Chief, sorry to
Yeah, no
interrupt. Courthouse security, was there something that happened was it the trial that necessitated the above, I think what I had been seeing over time there, or?
Yes, sir. Kindland, and there was another one, I don't remember what the other court was, but they had two trials that lasted over a week.
Okay.
So when you're pulling one away who can't do the opening or closing or anything like that, then you're gonna start having people who have to do double duty and come in at 7:30 and leave at 5:30. Arius and I did have a conversation this week. Rutledge was involved last week about trying some different things on the schedule. As y'all may have noticed, we are not allowing the public in before 8, which gives we can move that time that the courthouse security officer who opens comes in to 7:30.
Mhm.
That way they can spend that time to go through the courthouse before they actually open to the public. Because those who need access before, such as employees, they already have access, most of them, to get through the doors. So that hasn't been a reported issue yet. So that should cut some back on some.
Okay.
And there's a couple other things that we've discussed.
Okay.
And if it doesn't continue to come down, after these trials and things, definitely let me know. Obviously I see it, but if you have concerns,
Okay.
let me know.
Outside of their overtime, they do a fantastic job, by the way. They're a good bunch.
I came in Friday, they told me they had 50 inmates that they were transporting, just inmates, not people who were out on bond. They had 50 inmates going to court. I was like, I gotta see this. So I came up here and I watched for about 2 hours, and you're right, they did a fantastic job. It was, I didn't know how you would manage 50 people in between two courtrooms, but they did it and kept it safe, so. Is what it
They do a
is.
very good job. I appreciate them.
I'd reiterate that they do a good job at the annex as well.
Yeah, very good. Plus, they're personable
Mm-hmm.
with everybody,
Mm-hmm.
which is good.
I don't know, Shane likes to tell me that my employee number was before he was born, so I don't know.
That's okay.
Hey, at least he recognizes that.
So I said it out loud one day, and he was like, what?
I still know my city employee number, but I couldn't tell you my county employee number.
We made a positive difference from where we are today versus the projection of the previous report. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know that I'd seen that before. Hear, hear.
And this payroll included a holiday, so that might be
Yeah.
part of it.
Oh, come on, man.
Sorry.
Well, still.
Just can't win.
It was a good 5 seconds. All right, you're still looking?
I had a couple more pages.
Okay.
No.
All right.
I'm good.
You good?
Yeah.
Let's move on to item number 4, receive treasury report for May 2025. Our treasurer let me know this morning due to a medical emergency, is gonna have to push this. We will do this on, in Commissioner's Court on Tuesday. So
And I won't be here for that.
we'll get you connected to YouTube.
Okay.
You can watch it on YouTube.
We probably need to have a Q2 investment meeting. Probably should have that before the treasurer's report.
Yeah, before the investment report.
Yeah. All right. Let's get it on schedule.
Yeah, I'm supposed to meet with Steven later today, so
Okay.
Okay.
I'll see what he wants to do.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, that takes us to item number 5, which is review and discuss county policy on meal per diem amounts. Matt, I think this was your item?
Yes, so, Commissioner Beecham and I had discussed this briefly. The county's rate has been the $20 per meal. That's not really in line with what the federal rates have now been raised up to, and obviously it's insufficient to cover the meals for going to certain areas in Texas where things just wind up costing more. So the federal government has a ME&I chart that they produce, M&IE rate, excuse me.
Yeah.
And for most of the conferences that we attend, the rate is actually $80 per day rather than the $60 that we're currently paying out. This discussion is, obviously, we're not currently amending the personnel policy. We're not taking any action today, but this is kind of the preliminary discussion to if we need to make those changes. We have kind of 2 options here. Option 1 would be change the rate for each meal and go up to a certain maximum, or to do it by where we're going in terms of location. The problem with the option 2 is it becomes quite cumbersome. But I think like our Arlington, our Fort Worth, our Austin, Dallas, the Corpus Christi and South Padre and all those areas, those are about 75, but the Dallas, Arlington, and Austin are 80. So it's whatever the court wants to do. Personally, I would say we went with option 1 and just did maybe 25 per meal, per eligible meal, but
You've forgotten option 3. You just don't travel to those
that's
places.
that's true. That is, yeah.
Yeah,
But every department is required to have CPE hours, so
yeah, it's that government calculator. You can go to a specific city and it shows you the
Yeah.
correct rates, and it varies by time of year as
Right.
well.
Pack sandwiches.
So, like when South by Southwest is in Austin, which is typically when I go for tobacco in the spring,
That's
the
poor
rate,
planning on their
I
part.
know, the rates are through the roof,
I
so.
go for tobacco.
Yeah, you can't go to breakfast for less than $25, $30.
Not in Austin.
No. Y'all must be, I must be going to the wrong place.
In a hotel in Austin?
Yeah, I was about to say, my Brahms sausage biscuit and apple.
Chick-fil-A is so, I don't even go to Chick-fil-A.
Where are you going, Judge?
Brahms, not in Austin.
That Brahms and that chips and that's $38.50 in Austin.
I agree. I think that trying to get so granular as to locations a bit much. I don't know that we need to go up to $80 a day, but
I would agree.
75 probably. And I mean, and it's you only get reimbursement for that if it's not provided as part of the what
Right.
you're doing. So
it has to be
So we're
eligible.
gonna break it down by meals, cause the meal prices, the federal government show like $32 for dinner and
Right.
16 for breakfast or
Yeah.
whatever it is.
So like using Arlington and Fort Worth as an example, they're $80 and it has $20 for breakfast, $22 for lunch, and $33 for dinner. I mean, honestly, I would still just suggest the one flat
25
fee
for
for a full day and then,
That's gonna come into play with the wording of the personnel policy, because you pay by how many hours you're gone, and we calculate
Yeah.
Right.
So you can't really say we're just gonna give you $75 a day because
No.
you change the
Yeah.
policy.
Just
You can
change the
split it
amount.
amongst 3 meals and do
Well,
it like that, is what you're saying?
Yeah, because right now you don't. If I go to a conference and breakfast and lunch are at the conference and it's just one meal, I don't ask for the 75, I
Right.
ask for the one meal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the one meal rate for dinner is 30.
It's 33 and you get
33.
25.
I,
We're already going from 20 to 25.
yeah, I think just make it uniform.
Eat less. That's what I
And drink water and have a rest.
Save your breakfast money for dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are y'all still doing that, Matt, where you, like everybody brings an agenda to you and you cut them a check?
Yes, sir. Yeah, so we can do travel advances where you get it all up front before you leave.
Is there something we submit that on, or?
We have a travel advance form, and then you attach, like you said, the agenda and the dates and the location of the hotel, and send that over, and we get that processed through accounts payable.
Oh, okay.
You know, we could have Aramark make us some packaged meals ahead of time. Have county coolers.
I mean, you could just start buying MREs. That, I mean,
Now we're talking.
If I can get an MRE for breakfast down in downtown Austin, I'll take it.
That line of thinking wasn't all that strange at one time.
and there are
I'm trying to be gentle here, Jeff.
We'll say it's part of the county wellness program.
there are issues where the hotel will give you a continental breakfast, but that continental breakfast consists of an apple and a banana, and that's all you're getting. So
Wellness.
those, yeah, there's eligibility issues there where we kind of work with the departments.
Yeah. I mean, in my mind, it makes sense to increase it $5 a meal, but just to keep those uniform across the board. I know it's not that much work because the spreadsheet you would just put in different numbers,
Right.
but
This hasn't been changed in, I don't think, 10 years or so, whenever we went to the 20, so.
Wasn't that long ago.
I know the federal.
I think
Since I was on the court, we increased it.
yeah, it was
It
probably
was 19.
since I was on
It
court.
was 19.
19 or 20.
Yeah, I think it was.
It seems a whole lot longer than that.
Everything's.
It does.
Oh, goodness.
Kinda like parcel
Yeah, it's
rates, you gotta
1750.
wait 23 years to move
Sure.
the cost on parcel.
Sure. Called being diligent.
I remember when we took everything to court, if it was over $500.
Mm-hmm.
That made everybody really happy. God.
Okay, does that give you guidance on?
Gives me what I need, and I'll I'll get with Tanya, send over the revision to the policy,
Okay.
and we'll send it for court to review and approve.
Okay. All right. Any other questions on that item? Okay. Item number 6, review and discuss record retention policy of titles for county vehicles. Commissioner Beecham, was this yours? Matt, was this yours? Not sure.
It's both.
So, historically, the policy unofficially set was that every department got their own titles for the equipment or vehicles that they purchased. We are, obviously the county auditor's office maintains the fixed asset listings and holds all that. We also assist all the departments with getting their tags from Mr. Smith back there. And so we had the conversation that we could hold all of the titles, besides if the sheriff's office or any other elected official wanted to hold their own, but we could hold them in the auditor's office in a secured filing cabinet in Tana's office, and she's the county
It
purchasing
makes sense if
agent.
they hold all of them. In my case, we went through our records, about half of my vehicles, even some recent purchases, we don't have titles, don't know what happened to them, because I give them to Leon to put in a file, but we have titles to things from 1977 still, so.
So, yeah, so the default would be, unless an elected official has explicitly said, I want to keep my own titles from there, y'all would be the central
Yes.
depository
Exactly.
for those.
It
I mean,
makes sense to keep them all there, in reality, because they all belong to the county. It's not an elected official's asset, even
Right.
though It's a county asset.
Well, one thing I can see that would help, if we title those vehicles and assets in Wichita County, it certainly makes that process a lot easier. We got into the sheriff's deal where they were in the sheriff's name, they were in the, you know, and it,
We trade vehicles a lot, and so who knows what happens to the title in all those trades.
that, but titling them all the same, unless maybe they're purchased with forfeiture funds and designate those.
That's not a county vehicle then.
Right.
Designate those as the DA or the
Right.
sheriff, and then that way we kind of would know, because that helps a lot. Getting lost title or replacement title is not an issue, and it takes just a little bit of time. So as long as they're titled in the county, it makes it
Right.
easy
And
to
I
do.
would go one step further, and when Tawna creates those files, do them by department. That way, if y'all go to sell some on Purple Wave, she pulls the file with all of the VINs and says, okay, here's the 4 titles that are being sold.
I don't see why an elected official would need to hold their titles. They have full access to them in your office.
Yeah,
I don't see, I don't wanna hold them, I don't.
Well, and I think probably what we're getting at is for DA on their specific non-county and the sheriff.
But that's a
thing,
non-county asset.
Right.
But if it's a county purchased asset, I don't know why.
Yeah.
It just makes it difficult to,
Right.
in my particular case,
Yep.
I've got vehicles that have been purchased since I've been here that I don't know where the titles are.
I think that
You
don't know if
everyone
they're
needs to put
there.
our address on the title, because what happens is, every single one of them, when we get them in our office, sometimes from the courthouse, just say Wichita County, 907th Street.
Yep.
So I think people are just passing them around, and they don't know who it belongs to, and eventually some of them will end up in
That's-
our office, but it doesn't have anybody's name on it. And Tommy's not sending those, they're coming from like Austin, so if it doesn't say
Right.
600 Scott Street, Suite 301,
Exactly.
then it's just coming to 907th, and
Yeah.
nobody's mailbox just says that, everybody has a room number.
That's why
So
it
they
makes
don't know where it
sense
goes.
for them all to be collected at the auditor's office. If we need access to them, we know where they're at.
And by no means, I'm completely for it. I just know that we have a lot of elected officials, and
But
they
it's
tend to
county.
use their discretion on certain things, and if they elect to use their discretion to say not
It's-
participating, then.
It's still a county-owned asset.
Right.
It doesn't belong to the elected official, it belongs to the county.
They can always keep copies of them.
They belong to Tommy?
No, so they can always
Oh.
keep copies of them, so
Oh.
if that's what their issue is, they just wanna be able to see their.
Mr. Smythe, I believe you have something you'd like to chime in.
The reason why I came over this morning, Judge, I'm in full favor of supporting Matt on this, because what I like about it is, whether some representative, either from Jeff's office or somewhere, they get down there at our counter, you know, we're trying to figure out who's got what, where it's at. To Martin's point, hey, if you've got a centralized custodian, that's what we're talking about, a custodian of titles. This is a great concept, and I do agree with Commissioner Beecham. I don't know why, to me, if someone says, listen, hey, Tommy, we're gonna take care of all these car titles for you, they're in a file cabinet, hey, that's something else, less I don't have to worry about losing.
Yep.
Right now, they're like herding cats over Wichita, through all these
Yeah.
departments, when they get to moving around, and to me, it's a cleaner concept. If Jeff comes down, or he sends his yard foreman down or do something, and we're standing there, and say, listen, hey, buddy, Matt's got it upstairs. He gets on the elevator, goes upstairs, come back down, we do the trade, do the sale, it's over with. But trying to figure out who's got what, especially on a piece of equipment that somebody's owned forever a day, like Mark said, you find titles from 1977, well, that piece of equipment's gone, I'd like to think it is. But to me, it's just.
I've got a 61 miles, or 62 miles.
I have a folder made for each piece of equipment, and that equipment has a number on it, and that number is tagged on the top of my folder. And I can think, and trailers are, always an issue too, and understanding, like, we've got 6 or 8 titles, and unless you keep up with that specifically, you can get a title trailer and you have no clue, no matter who's looking at it, what it belongs to. And so I've always been diligent about that, and we work that pretty regular to make sure that we've got, and I have an index with T's beside everything to make sure that those titles are in those folders, and because trailers cause us confusion a lot of times. You know, you don't think about it, but a piece of equipment we own, the zipper, it has a Williamson brand title, a Williamson brand trailer that carries that thing around, and you really don't stay on top of it. You can just get that thing lost in the mix real quick.
We have the purchase documents too,
Yeah.
so.
We have some trailers that were acquired from DPS back in the day, you know, and they're non-descriptive, and that a car's pretty easy,
Right.
but it can get in the weeds a little bit with some of this other stuff. And I know the sheriff's department has some of those as well.
And emergency management.
Yeah, and emergency
And,
management.
I mean, this
especially,
is
too.
kind of going way out into the, well, hopefully not too far out into the future, but we have the capability to go out and print a little scanner and attach it to it, and it'll link it to the fixed asset that's in the system. It's just not been able to be done yet.
Right. That'll be cool.
Yeah, I don't, unless I'm missing something, I don't really see any downside to having the central location. Now, as long as y'all are keeping track of them, and to Jeff's point,
Right.
inventorying properly and able to put hands on, but
Yeah, you've got a VIN number on a vehicle, and it's pretty easy to eventually get that title sorted out if it's a question. But a lot of times, unless we manufacture a serial number on a trailer, it could not be carrying them.
Right.
And
Trailers, Jeff, I was in the middle of a trailer controversy earlier this week. This trailer deal with somebody who owns multiple trailers, it can get muddy quick.
muddy,
It can get muddy quick.
yeah.
Yeah, I own a bunch, and I've got 2 trailers right now that have switching VIN numbers on them. I bought them from somebody, and I don't know how they ever got switched. The titles are switched, not the trailers, but I'm assuming but that kind of stuff can happen.
We had one in Precinct 5, we sold it a couple of years ago, but it didn't carry a VIN number. It was a big trailer, you know, and it was hassle. We had to put a number on it.
Do a VIN certification.
Yeah. So,
well, I mean, I think then part of the mill and incidental, make that as a proposed change to the policy, and the court can take action on it.
Okay.
Just when you get it done, Tanya.
Okay.
Or, similar to not traveling, we can just have normal vehicles.
Yeah.
I
Our
got
loss
solutions.
ratio would really look a lot better.
We reopened the mule barn.
Yep. Any other comments, questions about that item?
Simple like
Okay.
that, too.
Let's go to item number 7, which is review and discuss regular bills. This was sent by Margaret yesterday at noon on the dot. Yep. Those AMR all from 1 month, the month of May? Or we have multiple?
I'll look real quick. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but I'm happy to look. They're real bad about, they have been real bad, let me say, about sending across the board, just like
Well,
Owen's found this one.
Yeah, I thought they might, and so I was just curious to know if we're looking at, that's a monthly total or if that's more.
It was a lot this time, I know that.
Between AMR, Amazon, and Aramark, that just pretty much wipes us out. First page.
Is the City of Wichita Falls one, the TIF payment?
The 3?
342?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, and that TIF 2 is the one that falls off next year.
Okay.
Has the Pike Pass, where we go pick up gravel, has that always fallen under travel?
It was under precinct 5 as travel, and now it's under the precincts as travel.
That just doesn't seem like a, because it's not really.
There's not really a good thing to put it under though.
Yeah.
Everybody who gets a toll bill is put under travel. I mean, if you're going to a conference,
Yeah, for like
it's
a
put
travel
under travel. I
reimbursement.
mean, I get your point 100%, but there's really not any other place to put it.
I was just trying to think of that. It'd almost be better to be under my,
Auto expense.
well, or my rock expense or something like that, but that's, it don't, doesn't matter. I'm just curious, 'cause I hadn't remember seeing those on there on my precinct
No, this was
before.
the first one.
Right, no, because Jeff asked that we separate them out from.
And they do need to be, I
Yes,
agree.
so this is the first one we got that it was separated out.
And we did that based on the invoices from those.
Yeah, I had to go,
Facilities.
it's, they're kind of, it didn't make any sense to me to contact, contact Pike Pass and cancel everything we had and start over. So I just tried to take the toll tags that we had and, change them to whatever you guys switched your vehicles, but we didn't really have a good list that gave me the information I needed to do that. So we went back and we looked at the DeLisi and the Zach Burkett to see who traveled those days and who was charged for the rock, and then we charged the Pike Pass to those.
Okay, I'm pretty sure these were all Jeff's.
It all comes out in the wash,
Yeah, I mean, it's a very
'Cause
minimal
I'll haul
amount. If
for
there's a
you, you
mistake,
haul
I
for
don't
me,
think it's
you
gonna
know,
be.
it-
I've just
All those AMRs are Mays.
Okay.
I knew you'd get that before I was, because I stopped to talk. Thanks, Dee Dee.
They're distracting you.
I'm telling you. When I heard him over there typing, I was like, oh, I told him I beat him that day, he's gonna try to beat me. I will note that one of those AMR, 2 of them were for the same person, same inmate, going like 2 days in a row or a day in between that, so.
Wow. What's the Secretary of State?
110,000.
Yeah.
That's the return of the HAVA.
Oh,
Money.
that's right.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, on those AMRs that transport inmates, we found so far 13 on the Nova line that have insurance. Some of those are inmates. Do we reach out to those insured? Once we find that they have insurance, we reach out to their insurance to cover the AMR cost?
They should be, yeah.
Okay, are we sharing
was my
that data with you
understanding.
guys from when we find that?
I'm not sure
Okay,
who has picked up that.
okay. Well, we need to start
Process.
sharing that information.
Yeah.
Because that could seriously cut into that AMR cost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because a lot of that is within our inmate clients that we're finding. And that's just going through half of our client list, we found 13.
Mm-hmm.
What is rescue phone?
That's the grant, the hostage rescue phone that the sheriff's office got a grant on. So it's literally something they throw into when there's a hostage situation and they can communicate with the individual.
And is it got a special feature somehow to it, or?
I'm not sure.
It's a phone you can throw into, say you got a hostage in a house, and you get a line into that house. It's just say it's a phone you can throw.
Yeah.
You gotta get a line into that house.
And I believe that was pretty much fully funded by the grant fund.
It was fully funded.
If we get our money back from the state, that is.
Commissioner, Chief McFerrin could give you the full details because he applied for it. He'd give you all the information you want, I think. If you,
And we can download anything you might need from the e-grants if you want some of that too.
of the deals, and Margaret, me and you talked about this a good while back, but I know we're probably approaching a time we've got to rebuild the leases that we have at Wrangler's Retreat and on Marion Lane. And, well, we don't have one on Marion, but Morgan would handle those, but I'm not aware of the timeline on that, but they're 5-year deals where they pay every 5 years. And somehow we need to set them up where they trigger y'all to invoice or something. Because if person does nothing and we don't do nothing, they're just,
There's nothing yet. I'll get with Mike on that. Mike has that.
okay.
The DTOF, DFOF description line,
Mm-hmm.
what does that stand for?
So, due to other funds, so
Okay.
that is, are you looking at the ones for the precinct?
Well, yeah, look, I've got one around 25,000, but
Yeah.
Jeff's is 123,000.
Yeah.
Oh,
So I was like,
That's for the money of the trade that we did in precinct 5.
Yep.
all right,
That me
So
and you
it's all
owe when
wash.
Mark and Barry got money.
Yep.
so you took out, that's the payments that we're making to.
Yeah, less the,
We
put
have
that
to
on.
make the payments from y'all to
Yeah.
precinct 5, and then we have
Okay.
to make the payment from precinct 5 to precinct 1 and precinct 3.
yeah, we all got
Yeah.
about 73,000, 73.5. Mark had a little bit of a credit because he only got a truck.
Right.
And then Barry's was exactly that. Mine and yours applied to our larger balance to
Okay.
pull those balances down to that number.
Yeah, I remember all that.
My credit will be used to buy a trailer.
Get us the title.
Yep.
Yeah. You can have the title. I'd rather you have it.
Yeah, that's on next week's agenda to certify that revenue.
108,000.
Solid. I'm glad you're getting it. I thought maybe I might need to borrow it sometime.
It looks
like
you want
a
to buy a
nice-
used,
it
nice
looks
used
like-
trailer?
Looks like a nice trailer.
Got one for sale.
I even commented this morning, I was glad to see you get a new trailer.
The city of Burke TIF will pay next week. It'll be on next Thursday's list.
I need to try that DTOF thing in my own budget. It's gotta be something there.
What
Do from other funds, do to other funds, do to other governments.
Unless you can get Barry to pay for your clear.
There we go.
Yeah. Sometimes y'all might see a bill, especially if it's like something that would be split up between you guys that we would, or it should have been paid by. I guess the best example would be like cell phones. We try to pay that all on one check and pay it out of the general fund, and then we have those due from other fund lines in there. And then we write a check to the treasurer from your departments to pay back the gen for us paying those hotspots and phones for you.
Yeah.
I don't think my precinct has any phones.
I don't think you have any phones, you just have a hotspot.
Mhm.
We can get you a rescue phone.
No, those are too expensive.
Y'all good?
Yep.
All right. Questions, comments on that item? All right, it is 11:12 and court is adjourned.